Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Wise Tips. Thanks so much for joining us here today. Today we've got some pretty big things to talk about today, and we're going to try and be as concise and clear as possible. But it may be a little bit of a longer one, just as a heads up, because it's a big topic. And that's one of our newer features, which is the ICSI Lab and Aspiration Lab updates online, which will, in short, we're going to talk more about it, but in short, it will allow you to share a specialized link with the ICSI Lab and Aspiration Labs that you work with in order for them to actually update those oocytes and those embryos, which will then automatically update your WISE option for you. So this would be a great WISE tips for those obviously that do work with ICSI Labs and Aspiration facilities. So without further ado, we'll get right into it and talk a little bit more about what it is and how to use it.
Yeah, I think that the first thing it's going to really mark this one is it's finally we are hoping to reduce the communication between reproduction centers, lab, and aspiration. Like you just said, it's going to take a while, but for them to get a hang of it.
Yeah.
But once it's implemented, hopefully this is going to be the solution, because there's so many text messages, Google worksheets, back and forward. It's really hard to maintain everything, on a centralized location. Important thing that is coming to my mind here is to mention that ICSI centers, aspiration centers and ICSI labs, they don't need to be WISE option users.
Yes, that's what I was about to say. Very big and very important thing. They do not have to have WISE option in order to use
All
this.
they need is a web browser, and everybody's going to be on the same page. Pretty much the lab are going to have one link for each of their customers, and they can just update. WISE option pushes the notification. So the benefits is tremendous. I strongly encourage not only our users, but also the aspiration centers and the ICSI labs to give it a try. And of course, we are open to your suggestions. But let's see. Hopefully we could, get some of these done right.
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing we should do is we should show them around a little bit where they can go to find these in WISE option. Yeah. So maybe the first place we can go is show them where to find the URL. So we're not doing quite the workflow yet of what you would send to the ICSI lab or the aspiration facility, but being able to show where you can find these links in order for you to kind of test this out before, of course, you send it over to them.
Okay. So in this first demo, we're going to pick two customer accounts here. Of course, you must have your aspiration and your ICSI labs entered into WISE option as customer, but also it's / vendors, partners.
Right.
So let's say, for example, here, I know that this one is one that we are using for ICSI, but I'd like to start with the aspiration because aspiration is the first one.
Yep.
So we have one here. This side mountain happens to be in our fake database, an aspiration center. So the first thing to do is to go to the customer account here on this corner. I'm going to click on the account. And on the top right corner, you're going to find the settings button in the customer account. That's where you prepare the settings. And down here, you're going to have a few IDs. This is where WISE option allows you to set up browser tokens so they can open and update, interact with those pages without having WISE option installed, but through a web browser. In this case, we are focusing on the Aspiration Center and ICSI Center. In other WISE tips, we talked about customer profile and trainer profile. So I'm going to ignore these two for now. We are going to focus on the Aspiration Center, which happens to be this first account I have open on my screen is for an Aspiration Center. And this is the token I want to share. The first button is in case you send this by mistake to a wrong place, you can refresh the token and come up with a new token. But on the little globe is where you can copy the URL. And this is a place that you could go and find the URL for your test itself. You could copy this URL and paste on the web browser. You would see the page. Instead, we're going to save this for a moment because I want to show you how you can, through WiseOption, come up with a nice letter, and you can send the letter to the Aspiration Center or ICSI Lab with a URL, a link on the page, on the message, I should say. And in that message, they just click, save that email for their reference, or save the URL. They click on that email message, web browser opens, and the Aspiration Center or ICSI Lab can start performing their updates online. Anything you'd like to add, Rachel?
No, I think you're pretty clear on that. I think the only thing I'll just to reiterate there, when we say refreshing the token, what that actually does is it scrambles it, it creates a new one. But what has the added benefit, like Eduardo said, if you accidentally send it to another person, it actually then once you refresh it, it makes it so that link no longer works, the old one that you had sent previously. So they would no longer be able to open it. And then, of course, you would just send a link to the correct person after you refresh it there for moving forward. Works very similar to the customer profile ID, refreshing the link on that.
Every single customer account in WiseOption receives a token. And it's within WiseOption. If you don't share, they don't have access. So just make sure that you share this token with those aspiration centers and ICSI labs that you want them to operate with your WiseOption.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's go through and
the first step is complete with just showing where to go and find the token. But that's not the place. This could be the place for you to consume the token for yourself in case you wanted to perform a test. Next, we're going to show you where to go and to create a nice letter and consume the token. I know that Side Mountain is our example as an aspiration center, and we are going to use here the 72 range as our lab. Okay, where do we go next, Rachel?
We're going to go to form letters.
Okay, would you like to go from here, or would you like to go from reports?
You know what? Let's go from reports, and we'll explain users why maybe one or the other. You could go from, in this case, you could go from the customer account or the report section, either one. The report section is a nice way to go because you could send it to multiple customers at once. So for example, if you maybe you worked with 4 or 5 different aspiration centers, you could use the email blast function and send this email to all 5 aspiration centers at once, rather than having to go through individually to each customer. But of course, maybe if you just work with 1 or 2, you could just as easily go to each one of their customer accounts and send the email from there.
Okay. In the process here, we would have our list of customers, and you would check your aspiration centers and send the letter. But before we go that far, the first thing, of course, is for us to create the letter.
Yep.
So I'm going to use here on this portion of the form to select the template where I can go. And as I click there, it opens up the form letter modules. In other words, from the email blast, you can access the form letter template section. I'm going to use here this particular option for online review. And as soon as I choose this category, down here on the plus, I'm going to add, and I'm going to call this my aspiration template. I'm going to click OK. The letter pops up. This is a test letter to aspiration centers. Of course, I'm not paying attention to the content of the letter here. I just want to show you the function operating. But this would be the body. What take you, where you put the name and the description. Please click on the link below. I'm not going that far, just for the sake of time here. You could put any text, and to add the encrypted token for that particular aspiration center, you click here on fields. And under fields, you are going to have customer information, which contains the entire list of possible variables you can add And variables are containers, placeholders you put on your form letters. When WISE Option is sending that letter, it's going to replace those containers, those placeholders with actual data. And here in my list, I'm going to look down the list here. There's one particular value that I'm going to look for here, and it's the Aspiration Center. I'm going to Aspiration Customer as an Aspiration Center. And here I have my URL. Let me see if I can move down just so you can see the tooltip. I'm going to remove the zoom here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see my mouse operating. If I first I'm going to position in the form letter and double click, and it puts the URL there. Like I said, this is just a placeholder. It looks like weird, as each Aspiration Center has a different token, a different URL. WISE Option is going to replace by that one as you are sending. So don't worry about this. I'm just going to save and exit, and my template's done. I'm going to do another one just for the sake, since I'm already here. I'm going to do an ICSI Lab template. Likewise, I'm just going to say this is a test URL for ICSI Lab. I'm going to put something different. Click on the link below. And likewise, I'm going to open the fields, customer information. I'm going to go down the list. And sure enough, down here, I'm going to open the customer as ICSI. Let me put a little bit down and see if I can zoom this a little bit so you can see. Customer as ICSI Center. And this is the variable I'm going to use. Zoom out a little bit so you can see. I'm going to place my cursor there, use that link, double click. Sure enough, it's there, and I just save. So now I have the two templates. I have one template for the aspiration, and I also have a template for ICSI. As we were sending for ICSI, I'm going to select the ICSI and submit. That's going to take me back to the list. And I was sending an email. I'm going to find that one. What's the name again, Rachel?
So for the aspiration is Side Mountain, and the ICSI is 72 Ranch.
Okay. So for the aspiration, here it is. I'm going to select this one. In my subject, I'm going to say, I'm going to say aspiration URL test. I'm going to send this to my fake Gmail account. I already select. It's showing me which one. So I'm going to select here. Again, I'm going to go to the online, just making sure that I'm picking the right one. Aspiration and submit. Okay, so Aspiration Center template. And it's good to go. And I have this one. Pretty much send the blast. Oops. I don't think we have an email address on that one. So the program was smart enough to catch that particular customer account does not have an email address. I'm going to return it here. Go to the bottom. Find the Side Mountain. And I'm going to put my fake email address here. I'm going to say name. This is a fake. I like to use the Gmail account, fake Gmail account, so we can play with it. I'm going to back now, refresh the list. I'm going to start over the process. My mouse is too sensitive. Okay, now I have Side Mount here. Select. I'm going to make sure one more time that I online review, aspiration, submit. I'm doing the BCC to this one. And actually, I'm going to remove the BC. I'm going to send to Rachel at Wise Option, so you can check with me, Rachel, if I'm receiving this.
Sounds good.
Okay. It's
Perfect.
BCCU from this. Email address is here. And sure enough, click yes. This time it worked good. So I just sent the email. So now the aspiration email should be in my fake Gmail account. We are doing this live. So
I have
it. Sure enough, it is there, aspiration URL. And I can go ahead, open that email. It replaced by just a comment. And as soon as I click on the link, it opens the browser for Wise Option Farms, Aspiration Log, Side Mountain Farm, and the mare's contracts that are waiting for aspiration updates. Comments, Rachel?
Really important, just to reiterate it 1,000 times. This is, as you can see here, this is only showing the contracts that are listed Side Mountain Farm as the aspiration center. They cannot see all of your aspirations. They cannot see all the other aspiration centers you're working with. They only see the aspirations and the records that you assign to this specific facility as an aspiration center.
That's an important fact, right?
So there, it looks like we've got 3 contracts for 3 different mares that are pending aspiration. So us in this scenario as the aspiration center can now go ahead and update these contracts as soon as we do the aspiration with some information.
Okay. Any particular preference?
No, we can just go from top down.
Let's do, I'm going to update. Let's say that we have performed the aspiration for Peach. I'm going to click on update. Now I'm playing the role here as the aspiration center. This is an optional field. Let's say the guy is called Mike. Date and time. And it's going to ask for the number of follicles that was punctured. I'm going to say 3. And let's say that we got probably, I don't know, 7 oocytes. So as soon as I hit tab, Wise Option create the 7 oocytes. I can check the box to the ones that were marked as mature. And right on the spot, the aspiration center has the chance to discard. I would encourage the aspiration center to put all that they found so the stats are proper. So I'm going to say that I have 1 mature and 1 discarded, which I should be left now with 5 good oocytes for, I would say 6. Only 1 mature. Only 1 is discarded. And as soon as I submit this process, boom, it's updated. I'm moving the mouse to a different place because now you see that the line is marked in green. White means waiting, pending, waiting for update. And now this one is being done. At this moment here, Wise Option, as soon as the aspiration center performs any kind of update on this log, Wise Option will send a notification to the facility, so to the mare care or stallion station for that matter, that an update has been done. That notification is just for you to know that your Wise Option has been updated by the aspiration center. So this is where the magic happens.
The coolest part of this whole thing is that not only does it update you, but it actually updates your system with this information then. So if we were to open up Wise Option right now and us then as the facility that initiated this could see then these updates that they made. So no more group text message and then you go and update your Wise Option with that info. They just do it here and it updates it for you.
Yeah. Just for the fun, I'm going to click on the next mirror.
Okay.
For Bonnie. And I'm going to say that this one here was made by Susan. I'm going to say that we got 5 and we have 13 oocytes. Hit tab. 2 are mature and 1, 2, 3 are discarded. So in this case, we should have 10 viable oocytes.
Yep.
Submit. Done.
I love it.
This is the work aspiration center. I don't know if you can hear my bleed.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you hear it, that's what it is.
That's my other email address receiving the notification that something happened.
Yes.
But, you know, it's so cool. The fact that you don't have to perform updates in your WISE option at this point. Everything is done on your end. So we have Bonnie and we have Peach. I think we should go back at this time here. And I'm going to return here. I'm going to use my navigation and I'm going to open patient. Patient, where do you think it's best for me to go? Mere card, mere review?
Oh, I would just go maybe under repro and just go to the art summary card. Because we remember one of them was Peach and one of them was we can probably just go to the art summary card there under Mere Management.
Art.
Yep.
Summary card, open in a new tab. There we go.
Yeah. And then I think if you just select the dates as the last 30 days, they should be on there, and then click refresh. And I think one of them was Peach and the other one we updated was Bonnie. Yep. Yeah. So Peach and Bonnie.
Peach is here.
Yep.
And if I go down the first one is Bonnie. If I go down to the right side here, I'm going to try to maximize this a little bit so you guys can see. So sure enough, just by doing that, it says that 3 were discarded by Bonnie and I have 10 all sites pending updates.
Yep.
And for Peach, I have 7.
Yep.
1 was discarded and 6 are pending here for updates. Total sites. This is another mare that we were playing with.
Yep.
Testing. And as far as the Aspiration Center goes, WISE option is updated by the Aspiration Center. That's that.
Yeah. I love it. Well, should we show them the ICSI Center? Because I think that's the, I mean, they're both very important, let's be honest, but I think everyone's really anxious about the ICSI Center and seeing how to update, those individual embryos.
Well, I'm going to go back here to my report.
Okay.
I am going to, instead of side, I'm going to go back to my list here on the top. And I'm going to select the 72 Rach because this one was actually the guy we chose to be our ICSI lab.
Yep. And currently, Eduardo, I think I have the email. I was going to say the email I think for that is set to mine. I don't know if you want to change it to that Gmail.
So I'm going to go there and in the email, the main one, I'm going to highlight, click on the little edit button, and I'm going to put that fake email address.
Perfect.
There you go. Done. Good deal.
Perfect.
So I'm going to go back to reports. That one is selected by Rachel here. I'm just going to be conservative, refresh the list one more time.
Just need to make sure.
Now the Gmail is there.
Perfect.
I'm going to change the template.
Yes, very important.
This time I'm going to use the template for ICSI because in that template, I use the container for the ICSI token.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to submit. And again, if you want to do this for multiple ICSI labs, you would just check the different ones. And as soon as you hit submit, WISE option is going to generate one letter, put that token, send to that ICSI lab number 1. Generate the letter, put the specific token, send to ICSI lab number 2.
Yep. And then maybe we just change the subject just for the sake of consistency.
Yep. ICSI Lab Smart Update through WISE option.
I like it.
So I have everything done here and I just submit. A warning telling me what's going to do. And the email has been sent. It makes me a little nervous doing this online here. It's been a few months, I should say, that I haven't tested things on the go, and especially recording. Okay, this URL here, I'm going to close this tab because this tab was the Aspiration Center. That's going to take me back to my fake email address. And sure enough, the second email, now pretending to be the ICSI, I click on this one, and I have my link here. When I click on this link, the tab opens.
Yeah.
And I have a bunch of...
And look who it is again. It's Bonnie and Peach. And then the other one we were playing around with earlier.
That's right.
And
That's
when
right.
it works beautifully.
Well, if I scroll down on this bar here, you're going to see Bonnie. And in Wise Option, they're going to see Wise Option controls every single oocyte. Yep. So for statistics, we are very interested in crunching numbers at the end of each season, but also providing the customer, the actual owner of the mares, anything that we can, because you see all these stats here on the bottom. So we want to encourage you guys to talk to the Aspiration Center, and especially the ICSI labs, for every time they inject one particular site, they just have to come here and say injected.
Yep.
And then after that, they're going to put them to sleep on the incubators. They're going to keep tracking, see if they're cleaving. And every time they do an update, they do the update through here. No more text messages every time. Same story. When they do any update here for each one of the logs, Wise Option sends a notification and update Wise Option database as well. So let's do some of them. Let's pick the first oocyte. I'm going to say the oocyte ID 10197, and I'm going to update, and I'm going to say that injected by stallion. The list of stallion is available based on the stallions you entered your contract in Wise Option. Yep. So this is limited to the stallions for that mare, which narrows down the possibility for mistakes.
Yes.
I'm going to say that I'm breeding to Amazing Grace. ICSI status, I just injected. Boom. Can make any comments if you want, but that's all the ICSI lab has to do. Updated, Wise Option was updated, email notification sent.
Look at that, on time.
On time. So I'm going to move my mouse to a different record just so you see that one as green. And this, again, is the view for the ICSI Center. For the mare care or stallion station facility, if you go back to your art module and you refresh this list, sure enough, you're going to have the update happening right there immediately at the same time. So what happens here, it's saying that the ICSI is complete, and we are waiting on updates on this side. I just wanted to show that happening. So I'm going to go back to the browser, and now I'm at your grace here, Rachel, whatever you want me to do to show a couple of things.
Yeah. Well, let's update that status again, or maybe update the status of another one and maybe select a different status.
I'm going to jump lines here intentionally. Okay. I'm going to say that this one was Megan. I'm going to say that it was a different stallion. And I'm going to just inject this one, and I'm going to update. No comments. But I'm going to go back to the first one, and I'm going to change the status that is now not cleaved and discarded. What do you want me to do? Because these are the options.
Yeah, let's do a cleaved in process.
Cleaved in process. Okay. I'm going to put it just so. Looks good. So I'm going to move my mouse to a different record, and it's still green with the last update and the last status, as you guys can see on this column.
Yeah. Maybe let's update one of them to one of the discarded ones. Maybe we can show what.
Yep. So this one that is complete, I'm going to update, and it's going to say that it's not cleaved and discarded. Is that what you want me to do?
Yeah. Okay. Let's do that. It never did, unfortunately.
I'm going to move to a different one. So it's done.
Yep.
Now I'm going to go back to Wise Option. I'm going to minimize the browser. I like to see the bling because every time the bling, it means that notification happens. So now this tree is kind of starting to become more meaningful.
Yep.
So let me try to zoom in here. I'm going to move more towards this side, and I'm going to try to zoom in more or less around here. So let's see if I can go this direction here. So let's see. The old site, initially 3 were discarded, 2 have been injected, 8 still pending injection updates.
Yeah.
For the 2 injected, 1 was Amazing Grace, cleaved, in process.
Yep.
For the one, Mr. Race, not cleaved, discarded.
Unfortunately.
Yes. And this way just keeps going and, updating. Anything else you want me to do? What's the next step that we could show?
Well, let's go ahead and let's update just one of those, maybe the one that's currently cleaved and in process. Let's update that one to embryo ready.
Okay. A few days passed by, the cleaved in process. I'm going to click update, and cleaved in process. I'm going to say a few days later, embryo. We could have embryo discarded, but in this case, I'm going to show embryo pending. I'm going to keep the loop good. Move to a different direction. Right here, it's saying embryo pending. Another notification. Go back to eyes option. Refresh the screen. Going to move the screen to that side. And sure enough, on the detail, it's showing that Amazing Grace, we have 1 embryo, and it's pending.
Yep. I love it.
Now, here, you could just grab the embryo, click on the pending, put in a recipient mare, or vitrified and put into a tank. The direction takes places here local in your wise option.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is that if you receive this embryo, which is pending for you, and you use this embryo here to something, should we probably vitrify this embryo?
Yeah, and I think we should mark it as embryo ready, I think is the last status. I think we have pending, which is just kind of waiting, maybe not quite ready to get shipped.
I was too anxious. I'm jumping.
That's okay. We get excited. But I think there's one more. Yeah, embryo ready. And then we should be able to.
Thank you. I missed that step.
No worries.
All right. So it was not quite ready yet for the facility to use the wise option.
Yes.
Okay.
Now it is, and the color changes.
Because now the ICSI facility can no longer change the status of that one, because said the embryo is good, ready, we sent it over, you have the embryo and you can work. From this point on, it becomes red for the ICSI lab, because from this point on, they cannot perform any change. If there's a mishandling or mistake, just give you a call in your wise option, you return it to pending, it will be green again, and they can do whatever they want.
Yes.
I didn't get that. Could you try?
They say they don't listen. Huh?
I know.
Yes. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to back there. 1 embryo ready.
Look at that. I love it. Yep. And now it's ready to transfer to
look here. Now I see this line here that I was missing, undefined. Yes. So the embryo is ready, but wise option is waiting for you to tell wise option what you did with that embryo.
Yep. Yeah. So I think if you just click on undefined, I think that actually takes you right to the ET log. So you can
precisely, it takes me to the embryo transfer, because now I have an embryo sitting on the counter, and wise option is waiting to see what we're going to tell about the whereabouts on this embryo. Yes. And here on the bottom, there are a couple of things that we can do. We can perform a vitrification, or we could simply double click, transfer to a mare. We could also ship to a different place. So we have it all.
I love it. That's awesome.
So let's go and vitrify this embryo.
Okay.
Vitrification process comes to the screen. The flushing source, I'm going to say that it's the same. The flushing source is a required field because in this case is the place that is handling the mare and everything.
Yes.
So the vat vitrified at, we could, this is the place who is vitrifying. I'm going to use Arnold here. Vitrification mode. Right now here we are getting to a more technical stuff. I'm just picking some values here so you guys can take the consideration here. Moving to the next side, storage charge. If you activate the charge at this point, WISE option is now considering for the storage invoicing at the end of each billing cycle. And of course, we would have to select the date as a start date today. So next month, it's going to be doing that for us. The technician who is performing the process of vitrification, which tank, I'm going to put on tank number 1, canister 2, bottom, and I think this is all.
That's it.
So now the embryo disappears from here because it was a spending. But if I see the vitrifications and everything, it's going to show in my vitrified inventory, which I could go to the vitrified inventory in WISE option show you. But I prefer to go back to the summary card in the art, refresh that information, and come back here because everything is tied together here. And when I go to this screen, it's going to show that that embryo that was ready is now vitrified.
Yep. It's all connected.
And when you vitrified embryos, it's important to remember because now we are talking about people who are leasing the donor mares.
Yeah.
And you can get from the ICSI, as you can see, multiple embryos out of this result. Every time you have one particular embryo, you can address that embryo to a different ownership. So embryos can have owners other than the mare owner. And the storage is going to be charged accordingly. Well, like you prevented, Rachel, it's a long one, but
it's a long one.
Full circle.
I mean, it was. I mean, this is a great resource for anyone who is wanting to get started with this. I mean, this video will literally walk you through it, start to finish. I mean, this is a phenomenal resource and something that I think is going to save people a lot of time, and especially in all of those communications, which, I mean, it doesn't really help the ICSI facility because they soft enter it in their own system, and it doesn't really help you because you soft enter it in your own system. At least this way, it's kind of killing two birds with one stone. They don't have to text you, and at the same time, they have a resource that they can always look back on, and not have to go through 50,000 different text messages to find it. And at the same time, it's updating your records automatically.
Absolutely. So, your records will be all polished, and you're going to have, of course, if you go to the Repro X-ray, everything is synchronized there. All the pieces come together here. You're going to see the art, the old sites, the ICSI embryos, everything combined in the same spot. But this is for the next lesson. I'm just giving a teaser here.
I know. Well, we got to end it sometime, but I think we did a pretty good job. I think we can both pat ourselves on the back a little bit for this one. This one was a big one, and I was a little nervous about it, but I think we did pretty good.
I was too. I must confess. Especially when you're dealing with such a complex thing, and I'm a little rusty with my...
I was going to say, you're not always touching it anymore, so you're not the only one anymore. So it's nice to be able to
It's a weird but a good feeling.
Yes, most definitely. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Thanks to all who stuck it out there for this. And as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us and ask us. And if nothing else, we will see you all next week.